Hey everybody, hope you enjoy my other videos for Carrotia, the game, my quick overview, my tutorial, my sample gameplay video. Now, Carrotia itself is a very family-friendly game. This is a game that lists for ages 8 and up, and it's a cooperative game. And quite honestly, this game can play for ages 5 and up. It's very, very simple. The hardest thing to understand is the tile lane and making sure that you lay out the tiles correctly and working against the timer, which can be frustrating for some of the younger players. But overall, this is a very family-friendly game that players ages 5 and up can very easily understand and enjoy the game, especially with adult present who can help them with the rules, reference how the different birds interact with the game. And that's a nice plus for this game because it's very hard these days to find family-friendly games that aren't part of the mass market media, where you're getting these games that are very, I hate to say it, they're dumbed down, they're oversimplified, such as Candyland and stuff like that. So it's nice to have a nice family game that's a little more challenging, adds a lot of skill building, and has a lot of decisions, lots of complexities to it, but it's not so complex that the younger players cannot enjoy it, and it's not so dumbed down that the older players find it a chore to play the game, such as games such as Candyland, which most adults would rather, watch paint dry before they ever play it again, but they'll do it just to have fun with their family, so don't ignore that point. Playing games with the family is fun, but it's a lot of fun to play family games that the adults can also enjoy. Now, Carrotia is a tile laying game, and it's done very well as a tile laying game. Matter of fact, it reminds me a lot of Kids at Carcassonne, which is a game I played a lot with my children as they were growing up. It was actually one of the games I actually got them board games started with, and that and a couple different abstracts, because they're both kinds of games that are very easy to teach kids. Abstracts are very easy to pick up on, and tile laying games are very easy to pick up on, as long as they don't add a lot of complex mechanics like some of the more complex Euro games can do. So it's kind of nice playing a nice tile laying game with the family. And what this one does is you take a basic tile laying game where players need to match up different shapes, basically to making sure that these paths line up correctly, otherwise they're going to suffer penalties. But what adds to the extra fun of the game is the fact that this is all going to be timed. Now, the first maze, the 30-second maze, doesn't seem that tough. You can usually get about 8 to 9 tiles out there, which isn't too tough. But when you start moving on to the second quest, even though you have more time, and the third quest, even though you have more time, and you have to start making these mazes much bigger, and you have to start going through all the limited tiles that you have, you're going to start seeing that the challenge for the game does ramp up a little bit, which is kind of nice, and it does add to the enjoyment of the game. Plus, the randomness of the birds that are going to be added to the board. You don't know which birds are going to be added to the board. You don't quite know which direction those birds are going to go. Sometimes they're going to hinder you. Sometimes they might actually help you, and you may see that happen even with some of the negative birds, such as a hawk, who may carry you back to the entrance of the maze, which is going to help you if you were at a dead end and you couldn't actually get out of the dead end, and you're hoping the hawk would help you. So sometimes the birds can help you, but they do add a lot of randomness to the game, and that may be something that some people may find as a negative, because you do have this very well-designed tile laying game, which has a lot of strategy to it, where the players are quickly, rapidly trying to lay out these tiles while they're doing the spatial awareness of laying out these tiles, making sure that they don't improperly build the maze, because if they do, they know they're going to suffer a penalty. So you have this very nice tile laying game, which adds in a little bit of randomness, which can be a hindrance and sometimes can be a negative. Sometimes you're going to roll these dice and they're not going to cause you any hindrance at all, and you find the biggest difficulty you had was building the maze properly. And sometimes these dice are just going to hound you, and you're going to get some of these birds that are going to carry you all the way over the maze, and you're simply going to run out of time. And that may be a little bit frustrating, especially to the younger players who may feel very proud of themselves for building this very nice maze. They worked so hard to build it, and they did a lot of teamwork, yelling back and forth, saying, I got this, I don't got this, oh, I need that tile, I'll pick it up, I'll fix this problem. Knowing that they're fighting this timer, and then after they do all the hard work, they're going to suffer the whims of fate with the dice. And it may, like I said, it might be frustrating for some of the younger gamers. That's just something you need to understand, that the bit of the birds can be a little bit random, but it's not that bad. And again, a lot of the main gameplay is going to be the tile lane, and you're going to be running through the maze, again, just hoping the dice don't work against you. And it adds a little bit of fun, but again, it can add a little bit of frustration. Now, the game itself does have some very good components to it, and I know this game is going up on Kickstarter, but I'm going to assume that this is pretty much what the components are going to look like, because they already look very, very well. We have some very thick cardboard for all these tiles. This is extremely thick cardboard. The artwork on the game is done very nice. It's very full colored artwork on the game, and everything looks fantastic. You have some very good components that come with the game. You have the sand timers that work out perfectly, and the rules are pretty darn good for the game. Now, the rules I got were an early draft of the game, so I had to email back and forth with the producers of the game to make sure I had all the rules right. But now that I have the rules right, the game rules do flow very simply and very easily, and it's not a hard game to understand. But again, there is going to be a little bit of randomness with the dice mechanics of the game, and also you're going to see how the game difficulty is not perfectly balanced. Now, you could consider this a boon, and you can also consider this a negative, depending on how you want to look at the game. Now, the game is going to be easiest as a 3 and a 4 player game, simply because you're going to have access to more tiles. And I know it seems like such a minor thing, but just having access to 2 more tiles to lay out when you're fighting these mazes can make a huge difference in this game. Because when you're playing this game with 2 players and you have exactly 10 tiles, you're going to only have 1 tile left over after building that 1 maze, which means that it can be pretty darn challenging. But when you have 4 players and you're dealing with 12 tiles, and that's going to give you 3 extra tiles, that can add a lot to the ability to build the maze, and it can make it a little bit easier. Plus, the powers that come with the game are going to also adjust the difficulty of the game. Now, some of these powers, such as the ghost, if you include this in every single game, every time you play the game, it's going to make the game a lot easier, barring the randomness of the dice and one of the hawks or something like that carrying you all over the maze and making your life more difficult. But barring that, you're going to see that having the ghost power is going to make it a lot easier to get through the maze, because you're not going to have to worry about dead ends. Because you can simply activate your ghost power and move on where you need to go, not worrying about the penalty preventing you from ever backing up with a rabbit. So you're going to see some of these powers can be very powerful and be very mandatory for the younger players if you want to make the game easier for the younger players. But if you want to make the game more difficult, especially for the older players, I suggest pulling some of these powers out, and that can actually add to the difficulty of the game. Overall, though, I want to say that Carrotia is a very fun family game. Now, it's probably not a game that I get to play with my boys much longer. My oldest son is 11, my youngest son is 8 years old now, and they have definitely moved on to the adult games. You can see even my 8-year-old is loving more adult games, such as Arcadia Quest. It's a game he really enjoys, but he still has a lot of fun playing some of these younger games. And he had a lot of fun with Carrotia. My older son had fun with it, but this is probably a game that they're starting to outgrow, and it's just because of the environment they grew up in. They're growing up in a board game house where they actually get to see a lot of the older big kid games kind of played. So I would say that this game, Carrotia, in a game family, a really strong board gaming family, it's probably going to be outgrown by about the age of 10. But if you're not a really strong board gaming family and you're a family that's still getting into board gaming and getting into the hobby, this is very easily a game that can go up to age 12 quite easily and be a very fun, enjoyable family game. Hope you enjoyed this review for Carrotia the game. I also hope you enjoy this video series. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them in the YouTube comments down below. You can also feel free to email me at offtheshelfboardgamereviews. That's otsbgr@gmail.com. If you like this video series and you want to see more like it, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and as always, thanks for watching.